They're convenient and available at many grocery stores, but as Consumer Reports explains, beneath that golden brown skin could be sodium, and a lot of it.
Stop. Put down that rotisserie chicken. What I'm about to show you will make you question everything you thought you knew about that golden bird spinning behind the glass. Because some of those chickens have been sitting there longer than your last relationship lasted. And what these 7 stores are hiding could make your next dinner your biggest regret. Let's start with America's retail giant, Walmart. You walk in for toilet paper and walk out with a rotisserie chicken because convenience, right? Wrong. But here's what former deli workers don't want you to know. Those chickens? They're often cooked in massive batches at 4 a.m. By the time you're shopping at 6 p.m., that bird has been sitting under heat lamps for 14 hours. 14 hours. Your leftover pizza doesn't even last that long. One former employee from Texas told me they had a rotation system. Fresh chickens on top, yesterday's reheated chickens on the bottom. The scary part? Sometimes they'd take unsold chickens, strip the meat, and turn it into chicken salad the next day. Same chicken, new packaging, higher price. That's not meal prep. That's recycling with a markup. And let's talk about temperature control. Health inspectors have cited multiple Walmart locations for keeping rotisserie chickens below the safe holding temperature of 140 degrees. That's not just a quality issue, that's a bacteria breeding ground. But the real kicker? Those chickens are pumped with so much sodium solution before cooking that one serving contains nearly half your daily salt intake. You're not buying dinner, you're buying a salt bomb. With feathers. A customer in Florida posted a photo of their Walmart chicken that was so salty their dog wouldn't even eat it. The caption read, "When even my garbage disposal has standards." But wait, it gets worse. Former employees revealed that during busy holiday periods, chickens would sit in warming cases for up to 18 hours. 18 hours. That's longer than most people's workday. One worker described the smell in the back room as death warmed over. Literally. The company's response when confronted? We follow all FDA guidelines. That's not reassurance. That's corporate speak for we do the bare minimum. Now, Costco's rotisserie chicken is legendary. $4.99 for a massive bird that feeds a family of 4. But here's the thing about legends. They're not always true. Those chickens are huge because they're injected with saline solution. Up to 15% of the weight you're paying for is just salt water. You're literally paying for water. Expensive, salty water. A former Costco deli manager revealed something disturbing. During busy periods, chickens that fell on the floor were rinsed off and put back in the warmer. 5-second rule, they called it. Except it wasn't 5 seconds. And it wasn't just the floor. The real issue? Volume over quality. Costco cooks hundreds of chickens daily. When demand is high, they'll pull chickens that are barely done and let them finish cooking under the heat lamps. That's not cooking, that's hoping. One customer posted a photo of their Costco chicken that was pink near the bone. The store's response? Cook it more at home. That's not customer service, that's passing the buck. Literally. Another issue? Those chickens are bred specifically to be abnormally large. We're talking chickens that grow so fast their legs can't support their own weight. That's not natural. That's genetic manipulation for profit. But here's what really shocked me. A former employee revealed that the secret seasoning is actually just salt, pepper, and something called chicken flavor enhancer, which is basically MSG with a fancy name. The chickens are also injected with phosphates to retain moisture, the same phosphates used in detergent. Your dinner shouldn't double as laundry soap. One health inspector found that some Costco locations were reusing the same injection needles for multiple chickens without sterilization. That's not food prep. That's playing Russian roulette with poultry. Kroger markets itself as fresh for everyone. But when it comes to rotisserie chicken, fresh is flexible. Former employees describe a practice called chicken roulette. Unsold chickens from the previous day get mixed with fresh ones. Good luck figuring out which is which. The seasoning? It's not herbs and spices. It's mostly salt, artificial flavoring, and something called chicken base that's basically MSG in disguise. But here's where it gets weird. Kroger's chickens often have a strange, almost sweet aftertaste. That's because they're injected with a solution containing corn syrup. You're not eating roasted chicken. You're eating candy-flavored poultry. Health inspections have found temperature violations at multiple locations. One store in Ohio was cited for keeping rotisserie chickens at 98 degrees. That's body temperature. That's not food storage. That's a science experiment. A former deli worker shared that during busy periods, they'd spray chickens with chicken juice, a mixture of broth and artificial flavoring, to make old birds look and smell fresh. One customer bit into a Kroger chicken and found it was completely hollow inside, just skin and bones. The meat had somehow disappeared. The store's explanation? Manufacturing defect. That's not a defect. That's a magic trick gone wrong. But the most disturbing revelation came from a former manager who admitted they had a 3-day rule. If a chicken looked okay after 3 days in the warmer, they'd keep selling it. 3 days. That's not food service. That's archaeological excavation. The same manager revealed that when corporate inspectors visited, they'd quickly swap out old chickens with fresh ones, then put the old ones back after the inspection. That's not compliance. That's theater. If this is already making you rethink your grocery shopping habits, hit that like button and subscribe. Because what I'm about to reveal about the next 4 stores will make Walmart look like a 5-star restaurant. We're talking about chickens that get reheated multiple times, stores that use the same tongs for raw and cooked meat, and one chain where employees call the rotisserie chickens mystery birds because nobody knows when they were actually cooked. Trust me, you'll want to hear about store number 6. It might be the most shocking of them all. Safeway promises ingredients for life, but some of those ingredients might be older than you think. The rotisserie chickens at Safeway have a dirty little secret. They're often made from chickens that were approaching their sell-by date as raw meat. One former deli worker explained it perfectly. If we couldn't sell it raw, we cooked it and called it fresh. That's not meal preparation. That's damage control. The cooking process? Mass production at its finest. Chickens are loaded into industrial ovens and cooked on timers. No checking for doneness. No quality control. Just hope for the best. A customer in California posted a video of their Safeway chicken that was completely dried out on one side and undercooked on the other. The same bird. The caption read, "Schrodinger's chicken, simultaneously overcooked and raw." But the real problem is storage. Those warming cases? They're rarely cleaned properly. Grease buildup, old seasoning residue, and bacteria create a coating that no amount of heat can sanitize. You're not buying fresh chicken. You're buying yesterday's mistakes with today's price tag. One health inspector found that a Safeway location was using the same warming case for chicken that had been used for fish earlier in the day, without cleaning it. That's not cross-training, that's cross-contamination. But here's what made my stomach turn. A former employee revealed that when chickens started to look tired, they'd brush them with vegetable oil and paprika to make them look fresh and golden. That's not seasoning, that's makeup for meat. Another worker shared that during slow periods, they'd take chickens that had been sitting for hours, chop them up, and sell them as fresh carved chicken at the deli counter. Same chicken, different presentation, higher price. One customer found a Safeway chicken with a Best Buy sticker that had been peeled off and replaced. When they peeled back the new sticker, the original date was 2 days earlier. That's not freshness, that's fraud with a side of poultry. Food Lion's slogan is easy, fresh, and affordable. 2 out of 3 isn't bad, except when the missing one is fresh. The rotisserie chickens here have a reputation among employees. They call them mystery birds because no one's quite sure when they were actually cooked. The rotation system is creative. Old chickens get moved to the back, new ones to the front. But during slow periods, those back chickens can sit there for days. Days. One employee from North Carolina revealed that chickens were sometimes reheated multiple times. If it looked dry, we'd spray it with chicken broth and put it back under the heat lamp. That's not food service. That's food theater. The seasoning blend contains over 20 ingredients, including several you can't pronounce. One of them is sodium aluminum phosphate, the same chemical used in cement production. Your dinner shouldn't double as construction material. Health inspectors have found violations ranging from improper storage temperatures to cross-contamination with raw poultry. One location was cited for using the same tongs for raw and cooked chicken. That's not convenience. That's contamination with a side of salmonella. A customer found a Food Lion chicken with a rubber band still attached to the leg. When they asked about it, the manager said it was part of the seasoning process. That's not seasoning. That's forgetting to remove the packaging. But the most shocking revelation? A former manager admitted they had a policy of selling chickens that had been dropped on the floor, as long as they were rinsed thoroughly. One worker described finding a chicken that had fallen behind the warming case and had been there for nobody knew how long. It was covered in dust and grease. The manager's instruction? Wipe it off and put it back. That's not food safety, that's archaeological recovery. Another employee revealed that during power outages, they'd continue selling chickens that had been sitting at room temperature for hours, as long as they still felt warm, was the guideline. That's not temperature control, that's playing chicken with food poisoning. Giant's rotisserie chickens look impressive. Golden brown, perfectly seasoned, sitting pretty in their warming case. But looks can be deceiving. Those chickens are often cooked from frozen. Not thawed. Frozen. The outside gets crispy, while the inside plays catch-up. The result? Uneven cooking that creates hot spots and cold zones in the same bird. A former deli manager admitted they had a spray and pray method. If a chicken looked dry, they'd spray it with oil and seasoning to make it look fresh. That's not freshening up. That's makeup for meat. The real issue? Time and temperature abuse. Giant's chickens often sit in warming cases for hours past the recommended holding time. The company policy says 4 hours maximum. The reality? Some chickens sit there all day. One customer found a chicken with a timestamp showing it had been cooked 11 hours earlier. When they complained, the manager offered a 50-cent discount. That's not customer service. That's insulting your intelligence. But here's the most disturbing part. A former employee revealed that when chickens started to smell off, they'd spray them with Febreze. Not food-grade deodorizer. Actual Febreze. That's not food safety. That's air freshener with a side of poultry. Another worker shared that during busy periods, they'd take chickens that were falling apart and use rubber bands to hold them together before putting them back in the case. That's not presentation. That's poultry puppetry. One health inspector found that Giant was using the same cutting boards for raw and cooked chicken, without washing them in between. The store's explanation? We were busy. That's not an excuse. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. A former employee revealed the most shocking practice of all. When chickens were too dried out to sell whole, they'd inject them with chicken broth using a marinade injector, then put them back in the warmer. That's not rehydration. That's resurrection. And it's disgusting. Last but certainly not least, Stop and Shop. Their rotisserie chickens come with a promise: made fresh daily. But fresh is a relative term when you're dealing with industrial food production. These chickens are pre-seasoned, pre-injected, and pre-cooked at a central facility. They arrive at stores partially done and get finished in the rotisserie ovens. That's not cooking. That's reheating with extra steps. The seasoning blend contains enough sodium to make your blood pressure monitor file a complaint. One chicken contains over 1,800 milligrams of sodium. That's more salt than you should eat in an entire day. But here's the kicker. Former employees revealed that unsold chickens don't get thrown away. They get stripped down and turned into chicken salad, soup, or sandwich filling. Same chicken, different presentation, higher markup. A customer posted a photo of Stop and Shop chicken salad with a piece of rotisserie skin still attached. The caption, "Found the smoking gun." That's not food recycling, that's food deception. One location was caught selling fresh chicken salad made from chickens that had been sitting in warmers for over 24 hours. When confronted, the manager claimed it was aged for flavor. That's not aging, that's decomposing with delusions. But the most disturbing revelation came from a former deli worker who described the weekend special, a practice where Friday's unsold chickens would be chopped up and mixed with Monday's chicken salad. That's not meal prep, that's time travel, backwards. Another employee revealed that when chickens were too dry to sell, they'd soak them in chicken broth overnight and sell them the next day as marinated. That's not marinating, that's drowning evidence. One health inspector found Stop and Shop using expired seasoning, some of it over a year past its expiration date. The store's response? Spices don't really go bad. That's not food science, that's wishful thinking. Here's what all these stores have in common. They're not selling you fresh, quality chicken. They're selling you convenience wrapped in marketing. The chickens are pumped with chemicals, cooked in bulk, and held at questionable temperatures for questionable amounts of time. You think you're getting a deal. You're actually getting a science experiment that happens to taste like chicken. The sodium levels alone should come with a health warning. The preservatives could probably mummify a pharaoh. And the actual chicken? It's often the lowest grade meat available, dressed up with seasoning and hope. But here's the thing. You have more power than you think. Every time you walk past that warming case, every time you choose to cook your own chicken, every time you demand better quality for your money, you're sending a message. And that message travels up the chain to corporate boardrooms, where decisions get made about what's acceptable to serve to families. These stores count on your convenience addiction. They bank on you being too busy, too tired, or too trusting to ask questions. But once you start asking questions, once you start looking closer, once you realize that fresh is just a marketing term, everything changes. Your standards change, your expectations change, your shopping habits change, and that's exactly what needs to happen. Your family deserves better than reheated regret with a side of sodium poisoning. Next time you're tempted by that golden rotisserie chicken, remember, if it's too convenient to be true, it probably is. If this opened your eyes to what's really spinning behind that glass case, smash that like button, subscribe for more food, truth that the industry doesn't want you to know, and share this with someone who still thinks convenience food is actually convenient. Because the only thing worse than bad chicken is not knowing it's bad chicken.